Hey, mi gente, it's Julian Steve. You already know my name, but if you're new here, hey. Today we're going to be talking about the gentrification of the Bronx. Now, there are going to be twists and turns throughout this video as I'm going to try to be nuanced. As much as I dislike the idea of gentrification, we do have to see from both sides of why it happened, why it's a good thing, why it's a bad thing, mostly why it's a bad thing. However, nuanced. Okay, mi gente? Okay, mi gente? Okay. We can start now. In case you're not familiar with my background, I am from the Bronx, born and raised. I specifically live on the East Bronx. Yes, I am still being vague due to my family and I's safety. I'd rather not say too much about exactly where I live. I do not play with doxing. My parents were born in Honduras and came legally to the United States when they were teenagers. Both of my parents have their American citizenship. Okay, next section. What is gentrification? Author Jonas Bronock of The Gentrification of the Bronx states, gentrification is a complex phenomenon that typically involves the influx of middle and upper class residents, often young professionals or artists, into historically low-income neighborhoods. This demographic shift can lead to rising property values, increased demand for services and amenities, and changes in the physical landscape of the area. Now that we have an idea of what gentrification is, I can begin explaining my points. Author Jen Jones of South Bronx Rising, Fall and Resurrection of American City discussed why the Bronx is gentrified. She explains that the Bronx became of interest to outside developers, one of these locations being the rezone of the Harlem waterfront. On the waterfront has a chart where they track the apartments and affordability level. Looking at Mott Haven, most of the new apartments are hybrid or luxury housing. Majority of the rent in these apartments cost too much. Most natives wouldn't be able to afford it. Radio rookie Christina Adra talked about her concerns of gentrification in the Bronx. She talked about how small businesses were moving out while big corporations were moving in, how the rent prices of new buildings cost $2,200 and up. She, alongside her friends, discussed how unfamiliar their environment has been with the new big businesses, buildings, and people.
That's the only Chipotle near here. So
I low-key feel guilty for giving my money to these big corporations. It's just that sometimes I want to enjoy the new things too. And even if I stop paying $14 for a chicken burrito bowl, it's not going to stop my neighborhood from changing. The countdown to gentrification has already started. We know how this goes. New buildings go up, a Starbucks opens, and then the rent starts going up. That's the part I'm really worried about. Displacement. When people who've lived somewhere their whole lives have to move out because new people with more money want to move in. I know the word gentrification is overused, and it means different things to different people. So I asked my friends what the word gentrification means to them.
It just mostly means that people don't care about us and they only see like the money that they can get out of all of these renovations, like big companies trying to take over. It's just like ruining what's already been established for years.
So I agree. I think gentrification for me means like people making money and profiting. They see the Bronx as like kind of a opportunity for them in a sense, like a way to make more money. Capitalism, guys, not okay. So yeah, I feel like gentrification is another system that benefits white people, privileged white people specifically. Yeah.
When I looked up the median rent for an apartment in my neighborhood, I was shocked. It's $2,195 a month. To pay that much and live comfortably, you would have to make about $85,000 a year. But a lot of people here only make around $34,000 a year. I used to think my family was financially stable. We had enough to get by in our neighborhood. But now, I'm worried that we're not going to have a stable home for much longer. I wonder what the future of my neighborhood might look like and what that will mean for me.
The first question is, as a Bronx native, how do you feel about gentrification concerns?
It worries me because, the nature of gentrification is to exploit people, places, and things, So it's like hugely concerning, especially because the Bronx as a borough has been so under-resourced from the whole city historically, like before we were even born, like just historically under-resourced on purpose. So to like see this like interest in the Bronx all of a sudden, especially growing up when always knowing that the Bronx was like the ill borough. Like it was not cool to be from the Bronx. If you was from the Bronx and it was cool, it was because of the criminal aspect that could be added to your reputation because of the Bronx, not because of anything else. It's weird. I guess for everyone who was kind of concerned about gentrification is like, what happens to the people in the places that are there now? Like, where do they go? Like, what happens? What happens to those communities? There's usually never a, I guess, follow-up story. Like, we hear the gentrification story, we hear about the under-resourcing, we hear about the changes that happen to the community, but we don't hear about the people who are we don't hear from the people who are displaced or the businesses who are run out. It kind of just ends there, and then it's about the resurgence again. We don't really talk about the things that were displaced because we do talk about it, but we don't talk to the people specifically that were displaced from the system of gentrification.
I want to talk a bit about former President Trump's visit to the Bronx. On May 23rd, 2024, Donald Trump visited the Bronx. Keep in mind, he visited Crescendo Park, one of the poorest neighborhoods in the Bronx. Donald Trump initially did this rally to get more Black and Hispanic voters, I guess in the Bronx, where he received 16% of the popular vote in the borough. He and his team thought this would be a great idea. It was a dense idea and a form of gentrification. Question 2. How did you feel about Donald Trump visiting the Bronx?
I have to laugh because he is a New Yorker.
Yes.
I feel like that's the first time he ever even been to the Bronx.
For real. And you know what's funny? So, I'm not sure if you know this, but he studied at Fordham University for 2 years.
Oh, what? I didn't know that. So maybe he's been to the Bronx before.
Yeah. But, just a tiny bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then he has like a golf course in the Bronx too. It's in Thron's Neck.
Oh, okay. I know. You see, I know nothing about that man. My feelings about Donald Trump in the Bronx, honestly, was calm and cool because I generally find a lot of what he a lot of his interactions with media, I find them pretty calm and cool because I just don't understand how anyone takes him seriously. Yeah. Although there are lots of people who do, because that's how they became the president, and that's how they're trying to become president again.
Yeah.
It is interesting because I think it's important for the rest of the United States to understand that New York City also is not this perfect place, because everyone comes here because they think this is this perfect place and with all this diversity. And New York City, although there are lots of races and ethnicity here, it is a very segregated city. Like you can cross the street and now you're not with the Black people and now you're with the white Hasidic Jews. Just cross the street. Like New York is a very segregated city, and I don't think the rest of the world understands how segregated it is. There's certain parts you should not go to if it's a very segregated city, and I think that people don't expect certain prejudices or discrimination or people who have these I guess what people would call the right kind of ideas in the city, and it's like, why not? Why wouldn't it be here? Why wouldn't racist people be here? Why wouldn't there be anti-Black people here? Why wouldn't there be anti-Muslim or anti-immigrant people in this city? And so for me, I think it kind of does that, because people have this very romanticized idea of New York City. And New York as a whole, really, because this state, if you look at the red and the blue, this state is mostly red. It is New York City that keeps this state blue. It's
honestly.
So I thought about things like that, but him in the Bronx, it was just kind of comical. For me, it was like, now we could kind of see who comes out. So now you know who not to fuck with. And stuff like that. But that was my thought. I'll be honest, was kind of surface, because I just don't understand. I really am still kind of like confused about how easy it is to be a agent of white supremacy. It's just so easy. It's just so easy.
As Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said, Donald Trump's using the Bronx and trying to confuse natives. However, most of his supporters came from other parts of the tri-state area, most likely the middle class and rich locations.
He is stuck in a pretty tight radius of where he can go. New York City's blue. Brooklyn is blue, Queens is blue, the Bronx is blue, and he's got nowhere to go. And so he's decided to come to the South Bronx. He's broke. He needs to pay these legal funds, and busing people in order to get those donations so that he can funnel them to his legal fees is kind of his business right now.
Lastly, shame on you, Chief G and Sleepy Hollow. Very embarrassing of you two rallying behind Donald Trump. Now, on to the next section. Hey, mi gente, we're at the front of the Bankside, which is a part of Mott Haven. Mott Haven's new properties are described as the borough's most expensive rental apartment. It's a stop away from Manhattan on the 405 and 6th Streets. There's a waterfront. Long story short, the median rent in Mott Haven jumped 31% from May 2019 to May 2023. Developer Keith Rubenstein co-owns the Bankside 7 Towers. Okay, Keith. 30% of the 1,339 units are affordable housing. I did the math, and that's about 414 units that is affordable. However, I did more research on these so-called affordable housing. To get into Bankside with a lottery ticket, you must pay $2,525 a month for a studio, or $3,400 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment, according to Aaron Ginsberg. You must earn 130% of the median income, which is about $87,000 for a single person annually. For a household of 5, you must earn $198,250 annually. Right now, we're in front of the Crescendo apartments, and I'm going to talk a bit more about the history of this building and how expensive it is in the Bronx. The Crescendo is a 2-building rental development in Mott Haven. I tried to find the developer and it says Caroline Management, so Caroline Management. They have apartments from $2,350 to $4,350 a month. Keep in mind, the studio apartments cost $2,350 a month, and the 3-bedroom apartments cost $4,350 a month. Back to you. Hey, mi gente. We at Clason Point, just like how I promised. Today we're going to be talking about the Shorehaven condominiums around here. And of course, I'm going to show B-roll so you all can see what we're seeing right now. If you're not familiar with Clason Point, specifically these properties at Clason Point, they refer to these as Shorehaven condominiums. There are 1,183 multi-unit condominium townhomes. As of 2024, their townhomes cost between $3,136 through $3,934 a month. Keep in mind, these are from townhomes with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. This does not include the HOA monthly fee. Back to you. Hey, mi gente. So I'm at Fordham, right? Well, I do not want to go to the location where the Fordham South Landing Fordham Landing South, whatever the name is. I don't want to go to the area because 1, it's not built yet, but 2, I just came from the gym. I do not want to walk all the way back there or taking the 12 bus to go to that location. And if you need anything else, I'm gonna just put it on the screen. Whatever footage, etc. Okay. Co-founder and director of development Brad Zaxxon is creating Fordham Landing South. Fordham Landing South is a 505 housing unit with 153 units being affordable housing. Multi-Housing News Diana 14 interviewed Brad Zaxxon sometime in February 2024. He states, by offering a mix of affordable and market rate housing, along with community facilities and public as well as private recreational amenities, Fordham Landing South will enhance the quality of life for residents and visitors alike. Maybe I am asking for a lot, but why do all these waterfront places cost so much? Even the affordable prices are not affordable. I'm pretty sure Fordham Landing South prices are going to be the equivalent to Bankside prices. These developers are promising affordable housing, but it's affordable for the middle class, not the working class people. Sure, there may be residents from the Bronx who want to live better without leaving the borough, so they move to these luxury apartments. Still shows an exclusivity problem. In this section of the video, I'm going to talk about examples of progression in the Bronx. One example I have is in Hunts Point. In Hunts Point, there was a juvenile detention center called Sponford Juvenile Detention Center. They closed the juvenile detention center and demolished it. Now, the peninsula is there and supposed to be affordable housing with 740 units. Currently, the location is on phase 2 of the project. Besides the buildings, the location is going to include a cultural arts center, childcare, wellness facility, and supermarket. In Canal Place, Mott Haven, there is a place called the Bronx Create Hub. The Bronx Create Hub is a co-working space for all kinds of artists in the area. Basically, if you're a small business or need to rent out a space, owner Dan Herdun has opened Create Hub spaces in Nashville and Philadelphia. Besides for profit, Dan seems to care about the creativity of artists and small businesses. Apparently, his rates are not bad, so come here, Bronx natives or NYC natives. Real estate developer Majora Carter acquired the former Hunts Point train station from Amtrak. Now, the former train station is an event venue called Bronx Nandina. Originally, Carter and her husband James Chase demolished the station, tweaked a few things, but wanted to level up the venue more. Now they've received funding from Studio V and renovation of Bronx Nandina is on the way. I do want to read this paragraph off of Stefan Zach's article. He states, led by architect Jay Vagora, Studio V took on the Bronx Nandina project in 2021 as a labor of love. He was inspired by Carter's vision. Her core message of restorative development is simple. People in what she calls low-status communities, places where inequality is assumed by people both inside and outside, where you feel like you need to measure success by how far you get away, don't have to move out of their neighborhoods to live in better ones. In this area, I agree with Major Carter and Jay Vagora's points. Restoring your community is the best way to build income and relationships. Leaving your community to better your life is not always the best option. However, I do understand why certain people, especially if you grew up in the Bronx or New York City as a whole, wants to improve their life by moving out. In the Bronx, there is a New York City foster care provider assisting young mothers in Castle Hill. The New York Founding recently opened a brand new building. In this new building, there are 18 young moms between 14 and 21 years old and their infants and toddlers. Gothamist author Karen Yeam states, the organization said its ultimate goal is to help young moms learn to live on their own when they age out of foster care. The new side-by-side buildings will allow the founding to expand its mother and child program that works with young moms. I believe this is a great initiative. Young mothers without family support need programs like these in the Bronx. Finally, mental health for Bronx children and teenagers. The State of Mental Health for Bronx Youth was presented by Partnership with Children. Partnership with Children is a 15-year-old nonprofit. The nonprofit focuses on trauma-informed counseling and healing arts throughout NYC. NYN Media's Megan McGrinney states, according to a recent report by Montefiore Medical Center, 20% have a mental health disorder, while 10% are severely emotionally disturbed. Perline also pointed to another study from the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute that showed the Bronx as the unhealthiest county in the state. Learning this doesn't surprise me. Mental health is taboo in the Bronx. Make me take it a bit further. Mental health is taboo in the Black and Latino communities. Mental health should be a focal point in the Bronx for everyone, especially the youth. We need to give a round of applause to the partnership with Children CEO Wednesday Pierre, Chief Program Officer Angela Jefferson, and Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson. Question 3. Name 3 things you love about the Bronx.
I would say food.
Mm-hmm.
You always find good food in the Bronx, and like the best hole in the wall kind of food. Like it's not a place where you have lots of chain restaurants or
Yeah.
lots of, it's like still kind of a mom and pop feel. Even for restaurants that are big, it's still like you could still the owner is still like an individual and not like a corporation or whatever like that. So that's something I like about the Bronx. I like one thing I like about the Bronx is also the diversity in the Bronx and like the many types of people. I keep saying how segregated New York is, and the Bronx, it is similarly segregated.
Yeah.
But like it gives the neighborhoods their personality.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as people try to dismiss the Bronx as this like cultural center of people, it is. So that's something else that I really like about the Bronx. And another thing I really enjoy about the Bronx, honestly, it's just a nostalgic place for me. Just so many of my childhood memories are in that borough. And it still looks like New York, like the New York I know, like the New York that I grew up seeing. And that's why they are always in the Bronx trying to shoot a movie. Anytime they're trying to do any New York thing, they go somewhere in the Bronx because the Bronx still looks like the New York City that has been sent out to the rest of the world as what New York City is. The Bronx still looks like that. They cannot shoot a lot of these, there's a reason why the Joker Steps became this thing. Like there's so much about the Bronx that is still indicative of what everyone in the world thinks about New York City as a whole. And no other borough has that anymore.
How do you feel about people who are making more income moving into the Bronx and they do not contribute to the original area? Like, the original, like, I guess the roots of the area.
I don't like that. And it's people like to say that that's just what happens when new people come into a space. And I don't believe that, because the Bronx in general has had many variations due to like immigration and things like that. So we've always had different people coming into that borough and kind of, yes, carving out their own space, but also like still integrating into what was already there.
Yeah.
Like where I grew up in the Bronx was River Park Towers, in that area on Cedric Avenue. And when I was younger, it was mostly Black and Puerto Rican. And then as I got older, I got a little more Dominican. And now there's a lot of continental African immigrants in that, so it's, but when I haven't lived there in a long time, but when I'm in that area again, it still feels like the space that I left.
Yeah.
Even though there's many different types of people who have been, been there or whatever, they haven't changed the feel of that neighborhood. And that's not something that happens when gentrifiers come into the space.
Exactly.
They want it to appease them, because they feel since I'm paying whatever money, then that means that certain services should be here, or they should look a certain way, or the noise, there should be less noise, all the ridiculous, all the things. And it's like, if you wanted a quiet town, like, go back to Ohio. Like that's not what happens here, okay? But when I go back to the Bronx, I see the difference, but the people still feel the same. The place I still hear the same noises. I still smell the same smells. I still, so yeah.
Hey, honestly,
some of them good, some of them bad.
I agree. Yeah, because it depends like what part of the Bronx you go to as well. Because for example, where I live at, it's because I live on the East Bronx. It's a bit more calmer versus the South Bronx. So.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly, because I'm from the South Bronx. So that's kind of and that's the thing too, because I would say New York City has a big Bronx ignorance anyway.
Yes.
Because there's so many types of like the Bronx is a big borough, and depending on where you live in the Bronx, you will have a different lived experience.
Yes.
Like me, I grew up in the South Bronx, but my experience is very different from someone who grew up in like Co-op City, or
Exactly. Yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Even though we're in the same borough, or my definitely different from someone who lives in Riverdale.
Don't get me started with Riverdale. The prices ridiculous. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but most of the city is very ignorant to the Bronx. So they just assume all of the Bronx is like the South Bronx because that's where hip hop started. So that's all of the Bronx is like that. When it's like it's a varied borough, like it's variations of what you could get here. Yeah, for sure.
Like I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna be pretending like there are no cons living in the Bronx, but the Bronx will always be home to me because besides me, I'm still living in the borough, but just because I have so many good memories here growing up, and the amount of people I met living here too, and trying to like survive living in the Bronx specifically, especially having a bad reputation of being the poorest borough or the poorest county. That has so much stigma, like what you mentioned earlier about how people they judge the Bronx because of it being poor or because of the South Bronx. And that doesn't mean shit. Like we more than being in poverty, we more than being, I guess, the basic borough, whatever they want to call us. Like we more than that, or like they call us crime infested. We are more than that, and I feel like people think just because somebody lives in the Bronx, they gonna be a criminal or they gonna do illegal stuff, and that's not true. Not everybody's like that.
Yeah, it's because I'm from the Bronx. I don't care where I move.
Exactly.
I'm from the Bronx. I'm a Bronx girl. Like that's just what it's gonna be. But I do see it, especially since I've lived in Brooklyn for a little over a decade now. And I'd say I'm from the Bronx. It's like,
yes, my friend does that. He pissed me off.
And I'm like, you from Brooklyn? Like, what are you saying?
Exactly.
Like, and y'all just got cute, okay? So you need to calm that down, okay? I'm grateful to be at a point where I don't care about that stuff. Stigma, I could be honest, when I was younger, that stigma was like a lot for a kid. Like my parents I always went to school in Manhattan. My parents are really good at pretending I live in Manhattan, so I could go to better schools. But it was a thing for me to say I was from the Bronx. It was like a thing. I would always say it, but it was like, and I do have a personality and a roughness to me. So it was like, and it's like, that's why I could be from the Bronx. And it's like, no, actually, I'm just like this.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got to do with the Bronx. But there is a stigma, and it is sad to still see that stigma. I know now that it's all about, a lot of it has to do with anti-Blackness, anti-immigrants, and classism, and all of that stuff. Like I have the language as to why people stigmatize the Bronx so much, more so than what I did when I was like 11. Well, I know you didn't plan to talk about this, but I just want to talk about one thing I hate that happens. I hate that there are people who are from the Bronx. I'm talking about famous people.
Yeah, okay.
Who use the Bronx for street cred and nothing
Jennifer?
else. Yes. And there's other people, but not to the extent of which J-Lo uses the Bronx for street cred and uses it as a tool for her to be like an authentic person. It gets on my nerves, and I don't like the way she uses the Bronx. I so love the way that the internet has been like, nah, girl. Like, I'm telling you, since I was not a kid, but like when I was younger, I was like the only J-Lo hater. And I'm like, how do you not see she's using Blackness? She's using the Bronx. Like, I just could not. So now that the world has caught up, I'm happy about that.
Nah, I agree. Like, don't get me wrong. I used to be a big fan of Jennifer Lopez, but some of the stuff she does pisses me off. I'm not even gonna lie. She grew up in houses, like just maybe specific, a house in Castle Hill.
Hi. I used to live here. I used to live here. Huh? What's your name?
My name is Jennifer.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I used to live and my room was upstairs right there.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Lopez.
Who's Jennifer Lopez?
Me. I used to live here.
And the fact that she pretends that she has all this street cred just because of a lot of people from the hood, they are very cool with Jennifer Lopez. And because of that, she eats that up, and she tries to claim that she's from the hood or the struggle. It's really annoying. I'm not gonna lie, it's annoying. And then of course there are some people they grew up in the projects, or they grew up like in proximity of people that live in the projects or in the hood or wherever they want to define it. They using like as for example, Fresh Montana, Ice Spice. I got so many people. Oh, Cardi B, Fat Joe too. I noticed like while they do not do it as bad as Jennifer Lopez, they in a way they do it too.
It's so funny because you just said a whole bunch of light-skinned people too.
Exactly.
And it's like because I totally agree, especially as someone from a place that people will classify as the hood or whatever. It is really annoying to see people play with class in that way when you know for sure. I could specifically say J-Lo. I don't really know about the backgrounds of French Montana. I don't know about the backgrounds of any of those people, honestly. To me, I will say my assumption was Cardi and that Ice Spice was from the hood, but I don't know. So it would make a little more sense as far as the proximity to the hood or whatever. But like someone like J-Lo, French Montana might too, honestly, because I as a person from the Bronx, you would know what hood they was from, and I've never heard about where he was from.
Apparently, for what I researched, Fresh Montana, he's from Patterson Projects. It's in the around the Avenue 138, around I think Brook and Cypress. Yeah, he's from there.
I don't know. It is interesting how the Bronx is utilized in that way, and then that's it.
I never heard of Fresh Montana donating. Never. I never heard of it. And then what also bothers me about him is he plays a lot when it comes to his like heritage, because Fresh Montana is not black.
No, he's not.
And he pretends he is just because he wanted to say the N-word stick.
I'm probably going on a tangent, so stop me if I am. But that's something I appreciate that is happening now. I remember being in high school when Fat Joe and J-Lo and I'm like, I was like the only person who was like, why are they saying nigga? Like they should not be saying that. Like why are we letting them say that? So I really enjoy this like Gen Z saying nah, or like more of us millennials who just didn't have the platform to say nah. But like I've always was like, no.
Exactly. Agreed. The gentrification and progression of the Bronx is a slippery slope. I get that monthly bills are increasing in the 5 boroughs, not just the Bronx. I get that. But why not help out working class residents in need of a new home? Why make it harder for said residents to live a bit better? We shouldn't be struggling to pay rent, eat, and do additional activities outside. We shouldn't be relying on public assistance to live. Trust me, I am not shaming, as I can relate. I'm just saying because a lot of people, especially in the Bronx, sadly have to rely on public assistance. I want better for all Bronx natives, especially us who chose to stay in the borough, whether you're poor, working class, and middle class. I would have included rich people, but rich people are going to screw us over. Rich Bronx natives can come visit and donate, but get out of the borough, respectfully. Thank you so much if you made it this far in this video. I appreciate you. Be sure to like this video, comment, share, and subscribe. As you can see, I put a lot of effort into this video. as well as my guest, Queen. Thank you so much for participating in this video. I appreciate you. Thank you to my sisters and my mom for helping me when it comes to the videography of this video. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be able to execute these, I guess, imageries or footage for the outside content. Thank you for mi gente, for, I guess, being supportive and motivating me to do this very big video and a personal one, as I am a Bronx native, so this really means a lot to me. Circling back to Queen, please subscribe to her channel and make sure to watch her content. It's really good, it's worth it. I do have one question for you all. What can we do to improve the Bronx without gentrification? Maybe there are examples in this video, or maybe you have your own examples outside of this video. So feel free to share them below. I'm curious to know. Thank you again, and
Peace, mi gente.
peace, mi gente.